You're listening to The Angry Designer, where we cut through the industry bull to help frustrated graphic designers survive and thrive.
What's up, Angry Designers? Today, we have something special to present to you guys. So we initially went on this hunt to look for somebody down under, right? We were looking for somebody down in Australia, and we found this dude. But you know what? He kind of like swindled us because he really wasn't from down under. He played this whole, I'm from Australia game, but in fact, he wasn't. So we kept on looking, and through him, he put us to a place that's even more down under than we are. And of course, the vibe is awesome. And we follow her all the time on social. She's a blast. And we are pleased to present our friend, Kristy Campbell.
Yay. Hello, guys. I'm so excited to be here. Big applause, big applause. Thank you for having me on your podcast, first of all. Like, it's an honor. You guys just have a great vibe, so I'm really excited.
The honor's over here, seriously, right? Because this is,
flipped.
Yeah, right. It is kind of flipped, right? So unfortunately, you don't have a beard. So the whole time the podcast video is going to be on us, not you. I'm sorry about that, right?
No, that's okay. I did dress in my black shirt. I dressed in my black shirt. Fit with you guys.
Yes, that's awesome.
Somebody noticed.
I did.
So I don't know why, and we've been going back and forth about this, but I'm so blown away because you are actually in the future, aren't you? So right now it is like 3:00 on a Tuesday afternoon here, and you are
in New Zealand, and it is 7:00 on Wednesday. 7 in the morning, we'll add.
That's just crazy. I don't even know how this is. This is just, I don't know what, simple minds. Simple minds, right?
Oh, hey, it's confusing. It gets worse when people are in like unusual places, like even Perth in Australia. The time difference is shocking there.
It's a big landmass, isn't it?
It is.
Needless to say, welcome. So, of course, we are drinking a little bit of Blanton's today, right?
Perfect.
Cheers on us.
Well,
and you have...
Yeah.
I've got my coffee, so cheers.
Your coffee. Cheers. There we go.
I would be a little bit concerned if it wasn't. Well,
you could have a wine.
Let's not promote that, all right?
Yeah, nice and early.
That's hardcore.
Getting started
wine.
Early.
Yeah, 7:00 in the morning. That's, Ooh.
Well, on a good note, this is like one of the best bourbons that we've ever drank. Mm-hmm. So, it's only fitting now. No pressure, but, whether you are going to be the best, interviewee or not, we're gonna have to wait.
Fingers crossed. I hope so. Have you interviewed many women? I mean, in the nicest way possible.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
So no, not that we were going to point that out to anybody, but you are officially. So you are setting the bar.
Yeah.
Okay. So
am I officially the first?
You are.
You are officially the first. Yes. Well, and in all fairness, we've had many people be like, why aren't you? And not like we've interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, because we are mostly a co-hosted podcast, but we definitely have a certain vibe. And that's all right. We're not for everybody. Everybody's not for us. But then your personality, fits so perfectly. And in fact, you were recommended even by one of our viewers. So again, I've been following you for a little while. And she's like, you know what? I watch all her stuff. She's got the same vibe as us. She's an angry designer as well. She's like,
I love it.
From Quebec. So you have some fans up here in Canada.
Yeah.
And and she made the recommendation. You were like the first one on our list. Mm-hmm. So, and then it was just like, I know who that is.
Yes.
I know. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you guys. I feel honored that I'm the first female. I love that. I'm here for that.
I know, right? And like, holy cow, how well have you done for yourself? I mean, in just a short amount of time, you have gone from, one end of the spectrum to the other. And I mean, literally, you're doing things that people with 20, 25, 30 years of experience can't even get near. So we're going to get into all of that. So all the more reason that I'm proud to have you on the show. So before we get too far, you are from New Zealand.
New Zealand. I'm a Kiwi.
What's that
proud
like?
Kiwi.
A Kiwi, right?
Mm-hmm. A Kiwi.
So where'd that come from?
I don't even know. Well, we've got the Kiwi bird, which is like our native bird, our little Kiwi. And I think it just stems from that, really. But I love being a Kiwi. I love down under.
So then wait, so if you're so proud of the Kiwi, then why isn't it pink Kiwi and not pink pony? I mean, I'm just saying, I think I just just
Oh, wow.
You did. You
asking
that was
the
something.
tough questions.
Got right into the really deep ones.
That is true. Look, I wanted to be a bit different from the Kiwiana. We call it Kiwiana, which is like inspired New Zealand. Yeah. I wanted to be a bit different, go against the grain, so I went with the pink pony instead.
Nice.
All right. Okay. Well, then let's figure out where you started with all this, okay? Because you were obviously a designer, but where did you start? Was this something that you always wanted and you always aspired to, or did you just kind of fall into this?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I honestly think I've always wanted to be a designer, and I feel like lucky to say that because I know so many people struggle with what they want to do with their life. And when I was at school, I was a really creative kid. Like I loved sketching and drawing, and I was like, making little movies with my friends and that kind of stuff. So that always, I always had a creative bone in my body. And then when I was able to take design at school, I was like, wow, this is cool. I like this. And then from there, it was my calling. I was like, this is what I meant to do. I'm good at it. I like it. And then since then, I just continued design. I left school and did a 3-year degree in graphic design and animation,
Very cool.
which was great. Animation, I know a little bit. I'm surprised when I said, I created this 3-minute long animation, which blows my mind because I'm like, I wouldn't even know where to start now. And then from there, I finished university. I graduated 2014, I think.
Wow,
and then from there,
just fresh.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't feel like that. But yeah, it sort of feels like yesterday and not at the same time, And then from there, I worked for a business for 4 years as an in-house designer. And then I went traveling and did the OE thing, and then came back to New Zealand, contracted, got another role, and then started Pink Pony in 2020 it was.
Wow.
Right? So
smokes.
now, and again, the whole how you got to Pink Pony was actually really cool because how did you describe it? It was because of rejection. You ended up where you are now?
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting stories. So my old job, the one I had before Pink Pony, it was a great job. I learned a lot. They were amazing to me, the company itself, the people. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But the business I wasn't very passionate about. It was basically they, like flat pack furniture, like IKEA.
Oh, yeah.
It was basically they had people go out and put together flat pack furniture for people. It was like a service. And I was the graphic designer and marketing manager for that business. Not that I knew anything about marketing when I went into that job, so I learned a lot.
We're jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I was there for 2 years, and I started finding I was really creatively drained and just uninspired. I was working in the same set of colours, which was black, white and green, and then also the same fonts for 2 years. And I was like, oh, surely there's more to life than this. Just sitting at my computer, I was like, And then I started applying for other roles, and I thought my dream job was this role with a massive fashion retailer in New Zealand as a senior designer. And I got a couple of interviews. They liked me, and they actually said to me, look, I think you would be too experienced for the role. And I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't get it. And I was really gutted. And from there, I was like, I want to do something, but I wasn't getting new jobs. So I started a 100-day design challenge, and that just was the birth of Pink Pony, really. And the challenge that I did, people ask about it a lot. They sort of say, what is it? Where can I find it? And the truth is, you can make it whatever you want to make it. You could make it 5 days, 30 days, 100 days, and just create a brief every day for yourself. I used Instagram to keep myself accountable. And I didn't even intend it to be a business, really.
Right.
And then it got to a point where I got a lead, and I was like, wow, this could be something. And then
it wasn't like a 100-day logo challenge. You were doing just everything random. Okay.
Yeah, it was very much like design, graphic design, and a bit of brand identity work, I guess, in a real basic sense. I was probably working maybe an hour on this a day, so it wasn't anything crazy. But I would do collages of even photos of me and my sister, and I would create a logo for my local cafe that I loved. I was just inspired by things all around me, and things that I genuinely loved. I created a surf logo and for a surf shop close to home. And it was just stuff I loved, and I just created what I felt like creating that day. There was definitely, it was hard. I don't know if you guys have done a design challenge in a similar
I've
way.
seen them, and they're intimidating. And unfortunately, by the time these things came out, I was already 12 years into Z Factor. So it was just trying to take that much. I would have got too. It would have been too much. I think I would have probably died.
Yeah, probably.
Or
There was
became a raging
honestly-
alcoholic.
Some days were a struggle, and at the time I was living in a flat with 6 other people, and we were like going out, we were partying, we were having a great time. So you can tell in the feed where I was hungover. They were terrible designs because I was sitting there. I was like, oh my god, I can't do it. But what it actually taught me was like you can create when you really don't feel like creating, and it actually does get you somewhere. And sometimes those designs, they may not be good designs, but you're still learning from them, and you're still like producing a concept that will hopefully lead you to something else. Right. So it taught me a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And then the more experience you have, often on those days, you can, pull from old jobs, pull from other experiences, right? Like that library of experience just grows and grows. And you're right, because, let's face it, we're not inspired 100% every single day and just charged at the computer, right? And then our side of the business, we've got so many other things to deal with. So it's, when you can pull from experience to meet a deadline versus just being utterly inspired, huge benefit. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, don't get me wrong, it was tough. By the end of it, I was so ready to be done. I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this. And people always say, like, how did you manage to do it? Like, how did you find the time? And it's like, if you want to do something, you can find the time. I don't have kids yet, so I can't speak on that. But I think that would be a different story when you have children. I can understand why you might not have time. But, it's about like if you want to fit in things, wake up half an hour earlier or, go to bed half an hour later. It's those little changes will help you get to where you want to be.
People tend to be scared
inspirational.
to prioritize. It's okay. Your story is all inspirational. You're doing you're fine. But you are right. People are so scared to prioritize these days, and they don't want to sacrifice anything. And the reality is, sacrifice comes with being an entrepreneur. It comes with finishing school. It comes with people just need to set the priorities straight and expect that there will, or understand that there will be sacrifices if they want to actually make it somewhere. So
yeah, totally. And I'm a firm believer too that, you can work, you should work really hard. Like I am a hard worker, but you should also have a whole lot of fun while you're doing it. And don't forget to like live your life and, do crazy things you want to do. Like earlier this year, me and my husband went to Europe, and we have for so long wanted to go to that big festival, Tomorrowland.
No, Tomorrowland. I'm so jealous.
And I was like, can we go? We've both got businesses. Like, it's a bit of a risk. But I was like, you know what? We don't have kids yet. So let's do this while we don't have kids. Let's just go. Like, we can make it work, And we did. And it was the best thing ever. So,
good on you. So if you want to realize how huge of an accomplishment that is for you, or how much of a true tale and how much I suck, after 25 years in business, I still haven't taken more than 2 weeks off back to back. 2 weeks has been my limit. Yes.
Really?
And again, it's just, I started, prior to getting married, and then I had kids along the journey. And as the business grew, so did my family. So, they kind of just both grew together at the same time. But I am yet to take more than 2 weeks. So good for you. I saw that. I was jealous. And I'm like, after only a couple of years with an agency, you made it work. So hold on to that. Like, good for you.
That's great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's like, I felt pretty bad, to be honest. I was like, is this a good decision leaving my team? And I don't have a big team, but they're amazing. And I had the guilt. Like, you have, of course, I have boss guilt, when I leave my team. I'm like, do they know, is it going to be okay? And they were just incredible. And it does make you realize what is working in your business and what isn't working in your business. Without you there, you totally, it like unfolds all this stuff that you might not have realized that you need.
Yeah. And that's when you realize process. You need process. Yeah. Process kicks in, right? I remember I was fighting that whole process train for years. It was the best thing I could have done. The one process we put in place. Only one.
Yeah, only one.
Your process is massive.
On the podcast, right? Absolutely. Okay, so wait, before we get too far there. Okay, so then going back to going back to school and then let's finish off the projection story. Right? So again, so you did the 100-day challenge.
Yes, did the 100-day challenge, and then I got to a point, it was probably day 80, and I was like building a small audience, not that followers mean anything, but I had like 500 followers. Like I was like, I didn't even realize people would be interested. And then it got to about day 80 and I had a first inquiry. Someone just sent a message and said, could you design a logo for me? I'll pay you for it. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is good. And then so I did that, and then another one came through and another one. And at the time I was still working full time for my old job, my previous job from Pink Pony. And, I was like, I could make a business out of this. It could actually be something substantial. And so I actually thought about it. My dad is pretty much my mentor. He's a very business savvy guy. He's been massive inspiration. I wouldn't be here, where I am without him. And I spoke to him about it, and he was like, why don't you go to your employer and say, hey, look, I really want to start my own thing, but I want to run it by you. How would you feel if I work 4 days a week and then 1 day a week work on my new business? And at the time, it was kind of like just as lockdown in New Zealand was finishing off. Yeah. So it was sort of all like, the timing was kind of good. And they were like, this actually works for us. You've done everything you need to do, and we just need to kind of get you to do a few things here and there. So the 4 days a week would work well. And then from there, moved down to 3, moved down to 2. And like I had a really lovely, I don't even know what to call it, transition into business, because I was so lucky with my last employer. That's why they were so good to me. They allowed me to like just slowly trickle out of their business and start my own. And I know that a lot of people don't get that opportunity. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to quit your job completely and then just go fresh, cold. I'm going to start a business and I'm going to have to make money. I was lucky to have the security of that money from my last employer. So it was a great transition. But again, like I call it luck. But if I didn't go and propose it to them, they may not have ever.
Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly it. I'm a firm believer you make your own luck, right? And then, true luck is when opportunity meets preparation. You had the foresight, or call it the courage, or, whatever you want to call it, to actually ask. You know how many people probably wouldn't have that? They oh, no, they're definitely going to say no. They're definitely going to say no. I mean, you kind of just went with it. And in all fairness, if you it's easy to talk yourself out of this kind of decision, because if somebody was to come to me and say, hey, I plan on leaving you anytime, in the near future to start my own gig. Do you mind if I cut my days back? I don't know how I would answer for that. So good on you for asking, and great on them for being, for knowing, cool. Unfortunately, that they're going to, you're going to be out of there at some time. So where was that tipping point?
It probably would have been, I might have started, it was probably about a couple of months in, maybe 1 or 2 months into slowly trickling out. And it honestly just got to a point I was contracting for them that like my hours were just getting lower and lower and lower. And then it would be like 1 month I was literally doing 1 hour for them. And so they were a client of mine for probably the first 6 months of Pink Pony. Good. So it really slowly trickled away. And then eventually I think they did end up hiring another, designer marketer in their business. So it worked out well for me because I had sort of done what I could, fallen away, and then I was getting my own clients coming in as well. So I had the security then of clients coming in and, from networking and Instagram, and they were all sort of rolling on in, and I was starting to build my network and the base for my business. So it was great. Right.
So you were still freelancing at this point, but you've already named the brand, right? Pink Pony. You weren't Kristy Campbell.
Totally. It was Pink Pony Creative that I was on Instagram. It was just me. I was working at home. Obviously didn't have a team or anything. Yeah, and I think I just did it so with no plan, in the sense that I wasn't putting pressure on myself. I know that, there's certainly some businesses where you need a plan, but we're quite lucky with what we do. All we need to make it work is a laptop and an internet connection. So it's quite an easy business to actually just start. And in a sense, you know. I think my dad actually paid for my laptop initially because I couldn't afford it, and then I just paid him back a while ago. He was like, I think I need to get a new laptop, and I was like, you know what, I'll buy you one.
Good on you.
Yeah,
That's
so it was
awesome.
really nice. It was good to, you know. It's nothing crazy, but it was a nice gesture, and he loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So, okay, so then you're doing freelance from your room. I remember seeing some of these posts, right? And you still had the neon sign, and then
Yes.
at what point? And I remember seeing everything about you starting your shop, and you know like the renovation. So I mean, good on you. I've been following you. I don't want to sound like I've been creeping you, but I followed you enough to see a lot of these
cool.
great monumental times. So at what point did you make that jump then from the house to then getting some storefront, investing the money, because it's not cheap to start that. That's scary as hell. Yeah,
totally. Again, I had a really it progressively built up. So I was in my house just working, just me, and I had a contractor working for me for about 5 hours a week. It wasn't much. And I was building it up and I was getting really busy. I was also getting really bored of being at home. I was like, I'm so over this, I'm quite a social bunny. And my husband would come home and he was...
Social pony.
Yes, social pony.
Okay, let's just clarify here.
Yes,
There we go.
I love that.
Stay on brand. Stay on brand.
Social pony. That is very cute, actually.
Trolley along, drop to the next networking event, right?
I'm going to use that now. Social pony. It's going to be my
I'll send you the
label.
It's your
invoice.
new thing.
It's my brain consultation.
It's so great. So I was working at home. My husband would get home and he was tired as from his whole day. And yet I was there wanting to chat away to him because I was like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I hadn't spoken to anyone else all day. So I was like, I think I need to make a change. Something's got to give. And the other part of that, I had this contractor working for me and I was thinking I could probably employ someone full time. I think it was definitely that first stage of feeling like I could. And I was thinking about how that would work. And I was like, I don't really want someone coming into my house to work with me. It can work, but I just felt it would be weird for that person. It would just feel odd, unless you had a really separate space. I didn't want them to feel like it wasn't their space that they could be in and enjoy. So I was like, I think I need to go and see if I can even find a shared office space. So I was really lucky with where I live. I live in a beach town. It's really relaxed. And
very cool.
5 minutes down the road, there was this awesome shared office space. So I went there, loved it, decided to start working there, and then got my first employee, which is obviously a whole nother conversation. And then I was there for probably a year and a half at the shared office space. And it was amazing. I think I might have been lucky with the people in the office. The actual space itself was beautiful, but those people are almost like another family to me now. They're so amazing. And for me, it was so hard to make the decision to actually get my own space because I didn't want to leave them. I literally was like, I love this so much. Why would I want to go somewhere else and leave all my friends and basically my family. So that was quite a big decision, but it was kind of holding me back in a way. I was sort of not growing because I wanted to stay with my mates. So I was like, I just need to do it. This has always been a dream of mine to have a space. I had built my team up a bit. I was like, financially it works out. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. What am I scared of? The only thing that can go wrong when it comes down to it is if I can't afford the rent, what happens?
Yep.
So
You're right.
That's kind of what it came to. And we did all the sums and I managed to come down to a 2-year lease. So I was quite lucky with that because I know some people sign on for quite long leases.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love having my own space and doing it up, and I have a giant horse in my space.
Big giant pink horse.
Pink
in
horse.
his face.
Yes,
That's
which
awesome.
I'm it's iconic.
How did you
Pedro,
even
his
find
name
that?
is.
Yeah.
I mean, it was black
Actually-
originally.
It was. That's kind of a funny story because when I got the space, I was like, I have a vision. I have this vision of having a giant pink plastic horse in the window. And my mum was like, that sounds tacky as, don't do it. Sounds terrible. And then because I was a horse rider for a lot of my life, I knew that these things existed. You know, they had them in horse shops, and they would have like saddles on them, and they were just standing there like showing the saddle. And so I started ringing around some of these shops, and I said, "Where did you get your horse, your plastic horse?" And they said like, "Oh, they're really hard to find. They're like 10 grand. You have to import them." And I was like, "Oh, I want a plastic horse, but not that bad." So I was like, you know what? Maybe someone on Facebook Marketplace will be selling one. And I looked, and this guy, he was selling one. And I was like, this is fate. This is me. This is my calling. This is fate telling me that this office is meant to happen, because who the hell sells a giant plastic horse on Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah.
And I got him for like $1,500. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. I mean, again, that's a staple mascot. I love it. Like, honestly,
it is.
Giant, dude. This thing is crazy.
Huge.
And I mean, you really can't miss it being bright pink.
Yeah, it's like become quite a prominent feature of the brand now, which I actually love. And I didn't know it would get like build up to that. Like, we get people where we've got a big shop front window, so we get people walking by. Little kids often just put their window up, their face up against the window, and they just look at the pony. They're like, wow. And then we took him out. We did some content the other day. We actually took him outside on the road, and people were like, "What are you guys doing with this giant horse?" So no, it was great.
What's the PMS color you painted the horse?
Oh, shit, I wouldn't even know. I know.
Well, what is your pink pony? Do you have a brand color?
I actually don't know what the PMS color is, surprisingly. You know, it's that whole thing, whatever, like, I'm an expert, specialist in brand identity design, but my branding, I don't even have a brand guidelines.
I know. Oh, God, I know.
That's right.
Classic.
Yeah.
Do you know how I came up with our red for both
how?
Factor and Angry Designer? So I went to go pick a color, right? And I would take the color slider, put it to the top, and go to the top right corner. I'm like, I like that red. Done. I don't even.
Perfect.
As easy as possible. And that's what it was. I didn't want to fuck around with Pantones and mixes. I was just like, pop, right corner, I'm done.
That's awesome.
It's horrible.
I love that. I know, it's so, like, that's so classic of, people in their specialty. They do it for people, but for them, like their own stuff, it's just like, I'll just do whatever I can to make it the easiest job possible. But it was quite great with his paint, because he was black, and I was like, I want to paint him pink, and then I was like, I'll do it myself. But my dad was like, it's such a risk, this thing is so hard to come by. I think you should get it professionally done. So we took him down to like a guys who paint
auto
cars.
body place?
Yeah. And I was like, look, I have an odd request.
I was going to say, walking in with a giant horse.
I have this giant horse, and they were so excited. Yeah, they were such good sports. It was awesome.
Oh God, that's amazing. All right, so what are the highs then of owning an agency? And this is still
so
a new
many.
business. Like, I see it in your eyes. I appreciate, because you've got both. You've got the passion for graphic design, but you're also an entrepreneur. You can see this. So it's just like, you can see you've got a spark in there when you start talking about it. So highs.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I really do. Like, so many, honestly, I'm like, where do I even start? I just love so many aspects. Like, I love the fact that I now get to work with people that I want to, and have awesome brands that want to work with us, that we have full creative control, and we can create these cool things that I never had in my previous career, because it wasn't corporate, but it was certainly like following to certain guidelines. So having the ability to really make brands something awesome, and like genuinely really playful, and dare to be different, I use a lot. And that's what we kind of put in our brands, and even put in what I've put into Pink Pony, is this idea of just being so different and not being afraid to do things a little bit quirky and outside of the box. So I love that side of the business, and even down to things like just having something for me that I've grown myself, obviously with support of others, but I've built this, and it's awesome to like look around and be like, shit, this is
really
literally my
fucking
childhood dream. Yeah.
Yep.
And like I was a kid who clearly by the name loved pink and loved ponies. That's where the name came from. And
Very
so
masculine.
It is super masculine.
Just need a little bit of glitter there, and then you're set. I swear, this has been my life the past 15 years.
Exactly. And like for me, when I think about me as 13-year-old me, if I said to me when I was 13, you're going to have a pink office with a giant pink horse with a cowboy glitter boot, I'd be like, that's not going to happen. Like, what the hell?
You're crazy.
Yeah, so that's awesome about building, the business. And then so many other things like having an online community and, getting these other overseas experiences that I never thought I would get, and working with brands like Adobe is just fucking amazing, to be honest. There's just so many, but also many lows.
So now, unfortunately, with the goods, there comes, downs, lows, some things that people don't think about. Share some of those.
Oh, again, so many. I think we briefly touched on it earlier, and like business, when it comes down to it as well, obviously there's a lot of like different facets, I guess, but a big one is your processes within a business. And I kind of didn't have an understanding at all about that when I started, even sort of 2 years ago. Pink Pony's been around for 3, but I only just started realizing how important business processes are when it came to building my team and how that works. Because if you don't have strong processes, it's going to just like fall flat, and your team's going to be asking you questions nonstop. They'll be confused. Where is this? What is that? How does this go? So having those from the get-go is obviously so important. So I learned that along the way, and obviously had this, certain things happen because I didn't have process in place. But when that happens, you put a process in place.
Yep.
But even another thing as well is with a team, the importance of having work is obviously so much bigger because you have the team to pay, the rent to pay. So it's really scary, to be honest. That's probably the biggest fear in business for, people like us is, will I have enough work? And that's always a challenging thing. And I've started to learn that it does come in waves, for you could be really busy and then a little bit slower and then it go up again, and it's all dependent on a few things and your marketing and the way that the economy even is at the moment. Like in New Zealand, our economy is quite bad, so for us we're getting a lot of jobs overseas that are paying quite well, but not so much in New Zealand. And then obviously another whole thing is having a team, and I'm not a very confrontational person. I'd rather just go with the flow and, get along with people. So that's been a really interesting ride. Yeah. And I've learned a lot, and I'm building up a lot more confidence to be confrontational. That's for sure. But it's been a challenge, and just learning how to deal with people and, what comes with that is a challenge. Obviously having a team is great, but there is challenges for sure.
Have you had anybody take advantage of you yet? Like, take advantage of your niceness, or slack a little bit, or bring down the team, or, well, you're year 3. Everybody's still on a rise right now, right?
Yeah. No, I've been quite lucky. I think as well, I'm really careful about who I choose in my team.
Good.
And it's a real gut feeling. And I won't go into details, but the gut feeling completely came true. I'll tell you guys when we're finished. About someone who interviewed. Unfortunately, probably can't say. But it's really looking into your gut feeling. And I had a gut feeling about someone, and I decided not to go with them. And I was like, this feeling was 100% accurate. And I'm so glad that I didn't do that. So it's gut feeling when you hire people. But when you make those hires, right from the get-go, if you have made a wrong hire, I couldn't even imagine. And I'm sure that'll come. I don't want to say that it won't.
Yeah.
No, you know what? The bigger, the more faith you put in people that you're interviewing. And unfortunately, what happens sometimes is you're almost putting more hope and kind of like brushing aside. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. This person looks good on paper and they're saying the right thing. So let me, let's take a chance. And it's just like 3 weeks in, you're just like, oh God, right? Oh, God.
It's a challenge. And I think when growing up, oh, sorry, I cut you off there. Growing up,
go.
when I started, in my career, the one, people would ask you, what's your dream? Especially when you leave university, they're like, what's your dream? Where do you want to be? And my answer was always like, own a studio. And I envisioned that the studio would have I'd be like, yeah, I'd love to have 20 employees. And now that I even have like a couple, I'm like, oh no, I'm okay with a small team. It's just a lot of work. And then your job becomes just managing people. And, sure, you can hire general manager or whatever it might be to help out. But I think you would definitely lose some control. And I love being so in the business and, being so a part of it. So I'm like, a small team is great. I'm happy with my small team. I love them.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Oh, it is. You know what? I think run flat as long as you can, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as you have to start, it seems like you can run flat. And I mean, only speaking for us and from our experience, but you get to 12, 14 people and running flat works. But as soon as you hit that high teens, 20, you have to start having really strong processes in place, and there has to be a hierarchy. And I hate that. I hate the org chart. I hate having people on top of people. Literally, we run flat.
Yeah.
Right? There's
yeah.
me. If you have a question, ask me. Otherwise, everybody else is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Falling out of my ear. Damn. And I mean, it's a nice way to run because it still keeps the team nice and tight. But you're right. I mean, I value a strong team more than a 30, 50, 100 person agency, right? So, this is a good thing to have. But do you miss, or do you find that you're already, that you're experiencing, business owner versus being creative? Because being creative is why we did this, but the entrepreneur side takes over, doesn't it?
Oh, hugely, massively. And I underestimated how much work would need to be brought in for even one other person. It's a massive amount of work. And then even, bringing on my second team member was about almost 2 years ago now. And then now we've just hired a junior, and then a senior is going to start as well soon, which is really exciting.
Awesome.
But it's a lot of work that you've got to bring in, a lot of management. And I'm not even designing that much anymore. It's just so much management, admin, all the stuff. And my sister actually works for me just 2 days a week. She lives sort of quite far away, down in the South Island. It's a good 2-hour plane fly. And she does the inquiries for us, and that's amazing. But, I'm thinking in my head, surely we'll need a project manager soon, maybe even someone who could do project management and sales. It's a lot of work for me. And I have a lot of things that I want to do, like online courses, and I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I just get so damn busy. Something's got to give for me to be able to do this, and I've got to let go of control, build the team so that I can do these awesome things.
Are you still acting as creative director?
Yeah, for sure. I'm still in there checking all the work before it gets sent out. Whatever gets done, I look over it. It's a really tight team, so we look at everything collaboratively. And I always make sure with anyone I hire, I like to say to them, I don't want you to feel like you're on your own, and I want you to feel that there's no wrong question. If you are stuck, if you have concepts and you don't know where to go, don't feel like you can't ask me, because I remember what that feels like, when you're stuck and you're like, oh, I don't want to ask them because it's not finished, and they're going to think it's finished, but it's not, that whole feeling, and it's not nice, and you want someone to support you and help you grow. So, we're very much looking over each other's shoulders and at the computer when we're wanting to help. And it's a great team collaborative approach that I'm building, and I feel proud of that. So
Nice.
Good for you. So interestingly enough, so team collaborative approach coming out of COVID, I guess there's a big expectation from a lot of people that they still want to be able to work from home fully and have remote jobs and this and that. How do you feel that works in a creative environment?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely someone who started just me at home, and then when I brought on, gosh, my words, it's too early in the morning. I need to warm up my vocal cords. Yeah, that's what I need. With bringing on a contractor, she was working for about 5 hours a week for me, and it was remote. And I thought it was going to be quite easy. You just send them the brief, they would do it, you could come back, bit of feedback. But it wasn't like as easy as I thought it was going to be. And I really missed just being right next to someone and just being like able to be like, hey, let's change this, or for them to be able to, hey, what do you think of this? I really like that quickness of that. And I think because I always worked in an office with other people. So when I decided to take a team member on full time, I was like, I need them in the office with me. And that's been a game changer. I love having my team here. I often get people sending me their CVs from overseas, and they're like, if there's any remote work, let me know. And I would love to, but I just don't have I love having my team here and building a relationship with them. Yeah, and having a culture and having a laugh and actually enjoying work. And yeah, it's tough being remote. Like, I take my hat off those people with teams remotely, because it's a lot of work and a lot of back and forth. But yeah.
Well, I think you hit the key word there, and that was culture. And I don't know if you can build culture, not this kind of creative culture, if everybody's remote and spending, 95% of their day by themselves and just checking in on Slack or the occasional Zoom call. I mean, when COVID hit, obviously up here in Canada, it was pretty crazy, and everybody had to just basically work from home. I came into the office and I brought my dog in with me, so I wasn't alone every day, right?
Love it.
within it, you know what that's like to bring your dog in. So initially it was fun. And it was kind of cool, and it was something new, and we'd have Zoom, and we'd try to have fun with it. And, we have like Friday, Whiskey Fridays here, right? Where everybody kind of, has a little bit of whiskey and just chill. And we even tried doing that on Zoom.
Remotely, yeah.
We tried,
it was
right?
Interesting.
And, but you quickly saw that it was, you were trying too hard, and the return was so little. And after 3 months, I think everybody was begging to come back into the office. And there was people that would come in, stay in one corner, stay in the office. We probably did it a little earlier than we should have, according to what the rest of the city was saying. But, it came to the point where, just like you said, you needed that collaboration. There's nothing better if you're in a rut, you want an opinion, standing up, seeing somebody, asking them, hearing your conversations. It's stimulating. And I think creatives need that. I think it's almost... I don't know who, and I know some freelancers like working by themselves, at home and but even the ones that I know keep saying how lonely they get, how quiet it is, how they like just the human communication. So,
and even for like
culture.
I agree. And even for like their growth, like the team's growth in themselves, they learn so much more with, me and then the other team members, the other designers, just being able to show them new little tips and tools. Like you probably wouldn't be able to do that as easily, over Zoom, because you're like, hold up, we're just going to do this.
At all.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like I much prefer it. It's so nice, building that relationship. And we are lucky. All the team here actually live about 5-minute drive away, which is great. So everyone comes in and, we all live a very quite relaxed lifestyle. We work hard, but we do live in the beachy town. It's relaxed. You go get your coffees on the weekend and go for a walk on the beach. And it's a good way to live. Like I love it.
Very cool.
I don't know. I couldn't live in the city. I'm a country girl at heart. So
what has been the biggest business struggle that you've had to experience so far?
Ooh, biggest business struggle. Ooh, I can't put my head on it. I think when it comes down to it, probably, again, having those difficult conversations with people, and that could be team members, clients, and it comes down to me not being very confrontational. But like, touch wood. It's not been too bad. There's certainly things that are happening in the background that are difficult, but are just with clients paying late, things like that is always never as fun. But I actually did a leadership course on the weekend, and I learned a lot about just little strategies you can use. And there was a strategy that really stood out to me, and it was agreed expectations. And when it comes down to even agreeing when someone's going to pay, they have to say, I'm going to pay by this day. And you say to them, when are you going to pay? They say a date, you say, okay, we've agreed. If they haven't paid on that day, you go back to them and say, you told me you were going to pay on this date and you haven't.
Have you been stiffed yet with money? We all get stiffed at some point or another, but you're still pretty early on.
Yeah, still pretty early on. And I have, but it's been the client's been paying very slowly. I'm just putting like little bits here and there, which is frustrating. It's been a year since, and the invoice still hasn't been fully paid. And it's really frustrating because these people are also business owners. I'm like, if this was reversed, how would you feel? And that's what gets me. I understand if people can't pay things, just tell me. Just be honest. Hey, look, I'm struggling to pay this. Can we sort out something? And then I'll be way more open and honest about it and understanding as well.
So what, if you can share, and you don't have to share, anything in particular, but typical payment terms? Do you take money up front? Do you do monthly installments or, 50% up front? How do you charge?
Yeah, definitely 50% up front for sure. And then 50%, we'll have designed everything, they've approved it. And then once they pay the full amount, we'll send through all the final files. But I am also open to like payment plans because we work with a lot of small businesses. And I know that, they don't have huge budgets or that their branding package feels quite, a large amount of money. So we offer payment plans if needed. And we don't often do it, to be honest. Clients are quite happy to do 50-50, but that's the best way. I mean, we all start out with those stories where we just design and we send the invoice at the end and they don't pay, or you get halfway through a job and I've definitely had my fair share of client bad stories,
I've got about 1,000 of those I can share, unfortunately, and not proud of them. But now it's the hard part I find is a lot of the work, as becomes very regular, especially when you start having retainer clients. So when something really juicy comes and you want to take it so bad, but from experience, if they're not meeting you on these terms or they're not willing to make these payments, it's just better. You're better off not to even go down there. And again, that's hard sometimes to kind of turn away.
Definitely. It is so challenging. And, people come along and sort of say to you, pitch to you, there's this big opportunity. And when they say that, that's a red flag. Just say, no, I'm out, I'm done. I don't want the opportunity. There is big opportunities for sure, but you have to be really careful and select with those opportunities. Like I worked with someone, and I do work with someone continuously who's amazing. I actually won't mention her name, but you could work it out if you tried. We work together. She's an incredible client. Love her. She has quite a large following on Instagram and like 4 million followers or something on Instagram. And she's got lots of businesses. And one time we did this package and we exchanged, like she would post on her stories and tag us for a cheaper rate. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just try this because I'm curious to see the kind of response I will get. Yeah. And she did. And it was amazing. She had the best testimonial and was great. But I honestly didn't really get anything from it, even from someone with 4 million followers who has really high engagement.
Yes.
And I was like, that's a good example of just, these big numbers and, opportunity can look amazing, but actually when it comes down to it, it might not pay off in the long run. And every other package we've done, she's paid full price. She's amazing. So it was just a one-off thing that I was wanting to see
to try and
what would
experiment.
happen.
Worthwhile.
Yeah.
That's too bad though. I've done some of those as well, and it's just in the end, it's just like, oh God, I wish it just didn't work out, unfortunately.
Yeah, for your time and effort. Yeah, that goes into that. It's actually not worth. Really, unless I'm sure there's instances where someone massive or like with lots of money and like big brands come and they're like, wow, cool, okay. But they are quite rare, I think.
Yeah. So is Pink Pony a full service agency, or do you guys niche down or end to end?
Yeah, we're full service with graphic design and brand identity, like visual identity design. And so we definitely strategize with clients in terms of brand identity, who are they, their personality, et cetera, and then move into the visual identity, all the assets and things. And that's sort of our primary package that we offer, and we do a lot of, which we love, but we also do take on just general graphic design work. And I've loved, I did that ever since day one. If someone came to me and said, oh, look, I've got a business card, I've got my logo done, but can you design this business card? So I was like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. And we still do that to this day. People come to us with quite even random requests like calendar designs, like notebook designs, or it could be anything like vehicle designs. Yeah, and I like being able to provide that like all-round service for people, because I'm hoping as well when they book jobs with even smaller things, they will come back for something bigger later, or they'll just continue booking these small jobs. Yeah, I love doing a full range of brand identity and graphic design as well.
And what about web? I didn't hear web in anywhere there.
Yeah, well, so growing my business and being on Instagram, I saw so many designers also doing web, and I was like, oh, I must have to do web. So I offered web design at first when it was just me, and I hadn't really had experience in it. I just did my website on Wix, and I was like, yeah, sure, I can do web. And so I did like 2 or 3.
The current website's a Wix site?
It is, yeah.
Wow, good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so I offered web design for people. I had like 2 or 3 websites that I did. And in that process, I realized how much I hated it. I was like, why am I doing this? I hate it. I hate the process. I liked designing it, but then developing it and like, I don't know what it was about it. I just didn't enjoy it. And I was like, why the hell am I offering this? I don't need to. Just because everyone else is there, I don't need to offer it. So even as we grow, a little birdie might say in my head, like, maybe you should offer web design. I'm like, nah, I'm happy not doing it. I'm so happy not doing it. And I've got the best referral. His name's Dan from The Fold. A little shout out to him. I met him at the co-working space, and I loved his vibe. You know, he was not only a great developer, but an epic designer in web. And I think that's really hard to come by. And he has a small team. So anyone that says, hey, look, can you design websites? I just push them off to him. And we have a great relationship. And he's actually doing our website at the moment. So I'm really excited. We're getting it all fresh.
So the website. That Wix one.
I know. I'm like, I do need to change it up. There's things I need to improve on it. And I was like, I think I'm ready to invest in a proper site. So I'm excited.
Yeah. But as a brand strategist, and this is just going to keep growing for you, because I love brand strategy. I love brand work equally as much as I love graphic design. Don't you feel that you should keep some sort of control as you recommend the web portion for your brand? Because once you give me my package, I'm going to have to walk away now, end this relationship and start another one. What about like, do you offer like at least some sort of consulting or helping them go to that next level, but not necessarily doing it?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And you make a great point there. Like that's why I keep being like, should I offer web design? Because I want the brands to then roll out to be what we intended them to be and the way that we intended them to be designed. So in our brand proposal packages at the very end, we just showcase what like part of a homepage website could look like. Again, we're not saying we're web designers, but we're sort of saying like, this is what we would hope for it to look like. A bit of inspiration, basically. And then Dan from The Fold, my mate Dan, I send when he signs on, Dan, he's going to love this. I'll send it to him. And then when I send stuff off to him, I will often give him we'll give him everything, like all the brand files, even the brand guidelines with the homepage inspiration. And I sort of say to him, like, you don't have to follow it because he's a great designer as is. And oftentimes he will create the designs, they'll be in a wireframe, and then the client actually says to me, hey, can you go over it and just see from your perspective as the person who created the brand identity what we would like to be changed. And I actually just did this recently with a client. Dan did the website, I did the branding, Dan did the website, and then I came in and just reviewed it and said, hey, look, can we do this, design changes, and it's been working really great, actually. It's been awesome. So yeah.
If you had to recommend being a freelancer or being an agency owner to somebody, right? And not worrying about hurting anybody's feelings. I kind of think I know where you sit, but you've literally had both sides of that, haven't you?
Yeah. Oh, so many different ideas flow into my head here. One idea that's actually been flowing in my head recently is I could make a lot more money by myself now. And that's an interesting concept.
It is.
Like, I think if I was on my own, I could make more money, which I'm like, what am I doing? But for me, it's not I've come down to, it's not about the money for me. And I've realized that. And building a studio, it was actually Dan from The Fold, my mate Dan. I've asked him for a lot of advice. Yes. A lot of advice. He's going to crack up. A lot of advice in terms of like growing a business, because he once had his own studio, and he said, you've got to do it. Like, it's something that is, if you're thinking about it, I think it's one thing in your life that you just got to do. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And like, now, I don't even know where I was going with the story. What was the question?
I love it.
I forgot. It's
freelance versus agency.
Oh, yes, okay. Freelance versus agency. Where am I going with the story still? I think it's one thing. He said to me, if you are in this growth stage, right? If you don't grow, you'll die in the most like nicest way possible. So there was that. And in a sense, I was like, it's easy to scale back. It's quite a lot harder to grow. So I was like, I'm growing. Why not just embrace my growth, be an agency? And then maybe one day I realize I don't want to have a team. I don't want to have a space, and I can hopefully scale back and just be me. And again, there's so many other factors that could play into that might not work out. But it's so tricky, because I think having an agency is awesome. You build a team, you're able to make quite a lot of money behind the scenes as well. Not saying that you get the money yourself, but
true.
This has really come into like a light bulb moment for me. Me and my husband actually recently purchased our second house, and I feel incredibly grateful to have 2 houses. I'm honestly blown away that that's something that we even have right now. It doesn't feel quite real. And this second house relied heavily a lot on what the business made. And I didn't know how important that was going to be until this moment. And if it was just me being a freelancer, I don't know if we would have been able to get that other house. So that has really shown me what a business can do for you, even personally, even though you personally might not make all the money. It actually is a backing. It's basically saying like, hey, look, if you can't pay for it, your business is going to. So that has been really powerful for me recently. And that's something I didn't realize would happen. But in terms of freelancer, I think as well, it comes down to like your time. If you really enjoy your time by yourself, cruising, not having an agenda, that is perfect. I thought that having an agency and being a boss, I would be able to still do lots of things, which I do, go away to Europe and things, but I have guilt when I leave the office. I have guilt. I have even if I go and have a meeting for too long, I feel bad for leaving the team here for some reason. I'm like,
get over
I'm like, okay, good. I feel terrible. I'm like, they might think I'm out with having lunch with my friends, but I'm not.
And I think that's just the perfect spot where we should end this first half of our conversation with the one and only Kristy Campbell and her awesome agency, Pink Pony Creative. So there was so much fun interviewing, talking. I don't even want to say it's an interview. We like having this conversation with her because she's just so down to earth. She's so chilled and she's so excited. She loves what she does. She's so passionate about it. And I think honestly that is the driving force for anybody in this space to succeed. If you love what you do and you're passionate and you've got conviction behind all your motivations, dude, money will come. And for her, it's already coming. She's got success. She's grown her agency. She's been recognized around the world. She loves what she does and she just puts it out there. You know what? You guys got to come back for part 2 of this conversation with Kristy, because you see even more of her personality come on out. She was such a fun person to have a conversation with. And honestly, I look forward to meeting her one day and hanging out because, I guarantee you she's going to be just as fun in person as she is virtually from the other side of the world, which is still kind of crazy for me. But again, small minds, right? So with that being said, please come back next week. We talk about her agency a little bit more, how she got there, her life there after a couple of customers. And of course, we're going to have our random, 20, 30 questions, rapid quick fire round, which are always really fun to kind of spring on people. I don't know why they don't expect them. I don't know. On behalf of Kristy Campbell, Sean, and myself, Massimo, stay creative and stay angry. Peace.